7 seconds of live stream. That's what happened to me the other night.
Okay.
Let me double check. All right. So YouTube is working this time. Just don't put it in a secondary window. Hey, everybody on Facebook, thanks for being here. Thanks for saying hello.
Yeah, I was just on that RAIN Global Podcast Summit for the last couple of hours.
Oh, were you participating?
No, I didn't this time.
Oh, you guys didn't write the check.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second here. Let me we'll get us started. Chris will join us here mid-process. Hey everyone, welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, we are live. We're live everywhere. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Twitch. We're not on Mixer anymore. That's gone. That service is vamos. It's shut down. And of course, we're on Facebook Live. So, hey Greg, hey Paul, if you're watching live, make sure you check in and say hello. We're awaiting our guest, and he'll show up soon enough. Rob, how you doing?
Todd, have you seen access to LinkedIn Live?
I've asked for access and haven't got it yet.
Haven't got it yet.
Yeah, they're still dabbling that out little by little. I guess I'm not big enough of an influencer to, because I don't work on LinkedIn a lot. So they're looking for people that are over there actively participating in their. So I don't post too much to LinkedIn. Too much self-marketing bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like a perfect fit for us, though. With what
It
we're
would
doing with this show, right?
But it's every time whenever I add, so I'll go in and add 20 people that requested to be connections, and 18 of them will send me an automated message, and I'm just like,
it's business, right? People are.
but why send me an automate? It's just, to me, I immediately ignore that. Chris says, let me know when you're ready. So I'm going to dial him in.
Oh, okay. All right. Chris Kremitzos is joining us here from Podfest. Hey.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
How's it going? Todd?
Going good. We are live, just a fair warning. So
I expect nothing less from the two.
Thanks for joining us. And how are you?
Good. My eyes are burning, but I'm excited and working around the clock.
Well, Rob, since you started doing the introductions, for those that don't know, which everyone probably does know who Chris is, why don't you tell the audience who Chris is and what Chris does?
Well, Chris Kremitzos is he's the founder and creator of the famous Podfest Expo and conference that's been going on down in Orlando for many years, and wanted to get Chris on the show to talk about his big push into virtual events with this new global virtual conference that he's putting on here coming up very, very soon, like starting next week. So Chris, great to have you join us. It's been a while since you've been on the show, but it's great to have you here.
Yeah, excited to be part of it.
So, Chris, we've been both. I know I've been heads down, crazy busy, and really haven't been paying too much attention to what you got going on over there. So, I went on the website today and saw this big official Guinness book. And we actually kind of talked about it in a show or two ago, saying, is he just doing a ad hoc Guinness Book of World Record attempt, or is this the real deal with Guinness monitoring? What are you doing there?
Oh no, there's adjudicators monitoring everything we're doing. There's witnesses. You're not allowed to use their logo or marks if it's not official. So that's a big deal to see that logo. So they're watching everything we're doing. We have witnesses involved that have to witness what we're doing. So it's a full deal. We're looking to set the world record for largest virtual podcasting conference over 1 week time. So that's what the record is.
So what do? They measure the individual pieces, or they just look at, how do they do that?
Well, they have a whole judging committee, so they go back and forth and they try and figure out how they're going to do that. And in this instance, what they're going to do is they're going to look at our Eventbrite registration. and then that registration integrates into Whova, which is an app that everything goes into. So that has to correlate with who goes in the app. So that's first tier verification. And then we have to send them our Zoom information. Zoom integrates with Whova, and you have to participate by stepping into one of our breakout rooms. And if you step into a breakout room and watch a form of education, that's counted as one.
Gotcha.
And that's how they count a user.
So, what is the record, or is there one?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're setting a record. There is no record.
Oh.
So yeah, no, we're not looking to break a record because there's none to break. So we're setting the world record.
Hey, that's the best kind of record to break, right?
Just like Rob's largest glass of orange juice. There was no record. He made a record.
Right.
But the cool part is you still have to hit like a sizable. It's 5,000 attendance, so it's not like a small. So you really have to drive people through. So we're very confident that we're going to set the record and more than likely go north of it. But at the same time, we have some amazing educators and 3 different languages spoken and a lot of really, really, really cool stuff going on.
So Rob and I have been doing, really over the past several months is a number of virtual conferences. And I know it's not without challenge, because every event that we've attended or that I have worked on, we've watched the event, watched the numbers, did our own counts. And what we find is people come in and spend an hour, maybe 2, and then are gone and don't come back. And, these are events where we can actually see the names of the participants and write down and track this stuff. So we've had a lot of, everything's virtual right now. And so we've had, my point of view has been that there's less value, and what we've seen so far is less value on virtual conferences. So, I think that, you've got a good track record of doing live conferences, and that's, that goes to your benefit. So how do you think the virtual conferences, and this is just experience on previous events I've done, not to say that's going to happen with you guys, but what are you doing to mitigate, to keep people engaged for, multiple hours when their boss is saying, hey, I need you to do something, or the kids are bothering you, where you would be there and not have these distractions? How are you going to try to mitigate the life distractions that happen and people are zoomed out and Zoom, basically people are suffering from Zoom overload. It used to be death by PowerPoint. Now it's death by Zoom.
So that's a great question, because we've already done a test run virtual event, and we saw that we had a really strong community. So right now what we're doing is, the reason why we brought in Whova, which is the app that we've used, She Podcast has used it. It's just meant for community engagement. So what we're doing with Whova is they're our architecture. There'll be a leaderboard. There'll be places where people could help each other. So my goal really is to break that trend. So we put a lot of marketing and assets behind the scenes to create collisions and interactivity. So we'll see. We're going to be launching Whova sometime tonight, so tomorrow morning, and we should start seeing the activity. We also have a group called PodFam, which was born out of this to support this. So we have close to 200 people in PodFam that will be on the app, continually in and out, connecting people, helping people. So we're creating a lot of different things to keep people coming back into the app, asking for help and getting the help that they need. So it's not your standard virtual event. We put in all in by design and strategy, so we'll see how it plays out. But I'm very confident that we can create as close as we can. It's not going to be a live experience, but as close as we can virtually, to do the best that we can to kind of overcome what you're talking about, which is people coming in for 5 minutes and leave. That's not what we want. So we're hoping with the app Whova, we'll be able to really cover some ground.
One thing, I missed your guys' announcement for asking for speakers and stuff, and probably just missed the email, but how's your lineup of speakers that you've got set up?
We have over 200. We have some of the best presenters all over the world. So Lily Wong is putting one in the morning in Mandarin. It's all for Mandarin speakers. We have people in Latin America. So we have an entire South American kind of English, Spanish track, 2 of them. And the speakers I wouldn't say that they would be like the most famous speakers that you've ever heard. These are people that I would call subject matter experts, very competent in what they do, know their audience, know how to talk to, marketing, audience growth, a lot of the key factors that we all talk about, but a lot of fresh faces, a lot of new people. I believe we're going to have the most beginners we've ever had in our come through our doors with this from all over the world. So we're really, really excited for that.
So you're doing 6 tracks simultaneously?
No, I think the most we'll have at any one time
is 3.
Remember, each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's 2 to 3 tracks going on.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it's actually
And
a longer. It goes what, 7 days? Is that right? 6 days?
It goes Monday through Saturday, 6 days, and then the pre-event starts Monday this week, and that's just us testing things out, and we'll have some education throughout each day.
So how many hours a day then is it? What's the hours?
Oh, it's at least 10 hours a day.
Wow.
6 days, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that lies the challenge, because you're doing it during a work week, and the majority of us are back to work. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, that and plus the whole concept that you guys are doing around cons, right? So you're creating little sub events inside of the conference too. Why don't you talk about that a little bit and how that works?
Yeah, so basically, just like podcasting works, everything breaks down into categories. We've created what we call microcons within each category. So we actually have Sex Communicator Con for people that talk about marriage and sex and all kinds of stuff. We have Faith Con for people that are faith podcasters. We have Cinema Voce, which is a Latin dual language voiceover conference. There's quite a few different cons. Health and Wellness Con for the health and wellness podcasters. We have one on cryptocurrencies, influencers that talk within that subject matter, comedy, people that are in the comedy niche. So it's a lot of different unique niches within the cons. And then Podfest has a startup track, A to Z. We have Tech Tuesdays, and then we have our masterclass talk Fridays.
How's registration going? You doing okay on that?
We're just under 2,000, and we're on track. So we're very confident in hitting our numbers and exceeding them. So thank God for us, registrations coming in. Right now we're averaging about 250 a day, but it's going to accelerate to 300 to 400 because of virtual events. Todd mentioned people wait last minute, so the curve goes like this as you get into it.
Yeah.
It's not like they have to drive anywhere.
Well, I tell you, this is no easy feat, especially to go that many hours. We've talked about doing some events, and we've done a bunch of surveys, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but everyone said I can only handle about 4 hours a day. So
yeah, well, you have to understand, people are going to come in for the pieces that they want.
Oh, I know.
They're going to come back for the other pieces. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking for anyone to sit there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
I know they're not going.
Right. And that's what I would fully expect to people to pop in and out, and maybe they'll look at the schedule and say, okay, I want to see this one, I want to see that one.
Right. Oh yeah.
And try to catch it as they can.
Well, the methodology here to go into what you're saying is it's true. People pop in and out. So we're looking to have enough stuff each day for them to come popping back in, and then we have their attention a little bit more as we get along each and every day. So we think that we'll track it. I mean, there'll be a huge leaderboard. The Whova has really interesting stats on how much time they spend. So we're hoping to crack the code of them spending quite a bit of time each day with us. Maybe in the beginning it's one session, then they come back. The sessions are pretty darn in-depth and really solid stuff that we got. So we've been reviewing a lot of the presentations so far. They've been solid.
So Chris, let's talk a little about the networking aspects of the event. Are you using any special tech, or is it all the Whova platform that you're using for pretty much all aspects of this, or are you outsourcing other tools other than the Whova platform?
No, the Whova is made for collaboration. So there's people could set up. We'll have boards where they could set up one-to-one meetings, and we're also going to be looking to do breakouts within Zoom, networking our speakers and our attendees at different platforms. So, we're going to do what we can with the technology we have. But Whova is probably the most interactive tool I've ever seen when it comes to connecting people together. And there's a lot of gamification within that app. So we're really excited to to get into Hoova and let it work its magic.
So how do you actually get people to use Hoova? I've never even heard of it.
So we used Hoova for Sheep Podcast, which is phenomenal, and then we use it for Podfest after. Once you register at Eventbrite, you already have a user with Hoova. It sends you an email, you click, and it just about auto launches. There's an app, a desktop version. Once you get in, fairly easy. It's think of it as like you're walking into a hotel. There's architecture. You hit your room, and then you go right into your room. Zoom is integrated in the room, so it auto launches, and it's fairly easy to use. I mean, we're testing it out tomorrow. We're going live tonight, and then tomorrow we'll do some tests.
So how is it? Hoova.com or what is it?
WHOVA.
Oh,
I don't know if it's a .com, but
yeah. I've heard of Hoova. I thought it was spelled with an H.
They have mobile apps too. I used them at Podfest, and it's a pretty powerful tool. Actually, I talked to them at one point just to learn more about their platform, and it's pretty powerful.
I don't remember using it Podcast. Of course, I wasn't using any app. I was just stuck in the booth. So
yeah.
Or if I did use it, I did use it, I didn't know I was using it.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, Chris, let's talk about a bigger topic here too. That's related to your event too, and how you're thinking about the future of real in-person events coming back. And do you see the shift to this virtual stuff as kind of like a education curve for the world right now, and that you're going to find that there's going to be a greater balance between virtual events and real world events as you look to the future?
Well, I was surprised when Zoom went from 10 million users to 200 million users. It almost sounded unreal because I thought pretty much everybody had used it at one point or another. So a lot of people now are familiar with technology. I mean, you guys are pioneers in what you've been doing for quite some time at this point. But I think live events will do better. Certain live events will do better, and other events, like a lot of corporate type events where people are like, oh, we could have done this virtually and cut out $1 million. They're going to start relooking at their budgets for that kind of stuff. But for live events like big podcasting live events, new media, those things are going to do really well because people still need to meet each other personally. We're already online. What I don't see a clear picture is when that's going to come back online. I'm hoping sooner than later, but we're all waiting.
But are you thinking, as you look to the future, even when that happens, that there's going to be a stronger online kind of virtual event that'll be bolted on to your real world event to try and get scale? Or is that, I mean, how do you see that playing out over time as you think about it?
Yeah, I actually see Podfest having a physical event at the same time having a virtual event at the same time, while people that can't attend it could have virtual speakers, and we start scheduling that out. And I see it as a huge entry point to grow your community. We were going to do we're going to do a virtual event anyway, because it's just smart business to have a virtual event, right? I know now everybody's talking about virtual events, but we would have done one anyways this year. Now we're just going to do a couple more than normal. But I'm not this global summit. We're only doing one. After that, they're all going to be small one-day events. This is one where we're putting all our resources. Got Hoova. We're getting sponsors, getting everybody integrated. So we will see more of it integrated. But I think what Todd is mentioning is what people have to crack the code in, which I'm hoping I'll be able to do. That is, you need more live interaction, not someone sitting at their home watching something for 15 minutes and then never coming back. So it's how do you integrate a community via live event? I think we're seeing a lot of beta tools right now. I don't know how many of those will survive, but we're seeing a lot of tools come out for this kind of stuff.
For me,
I've also noticed that they're very expensive too.
Yeah. So for us, nothing is ever going to replace a live event. I figure we lost $250,000 of revenue this year just by not being able to go to events. That because we meet businesses. NAB, big hit. Big hit because we couldn't go. If I don't generate $100,000 worth of business out of NAB, we don't go to NAB. There was no NAB. There was no business generated because there was no NAB. And then additional businesses with meeting new people in the podcasting space. You just don't have that same interaction. There's great training, great courses, but there's not the vendor discussions. There's no way for that to really even work at this point to be effective, to be able to talk to people. So that nut's got to be cracked. And I think that the live events just have to, after we get through this and they get a vaccine or whatever, I would go to an event tomorrow. I'm not scared to travel. So, but I know many people are, and they won't go. So that's the life we're at this point. But
when do you guys think we'll see live events come back? Like,
I was shocked that CES canceled. I thought CES would have continued. And to me personally,
February?
That's in January.
January. Okay.
To me, that's on not a Blueberry business aspect, but my blog. That's a major hit for me because that show generates a year's worth of connections, content, relationship building. I lose that. And that is, I go to that show and I spend a lot of personal money at that show, but it also generates lots of personal, so we're going to have to see how this is going to affect, because it's just for my regular podcast, how it's going to affect. And so, you're turning off 250,000 people going to Vegas, the biggest trade show there.
Trade show, right. Picks up all Vegas.
Yeah. So, and then there's 100,000 Chinese there too. So I guess maybe there is a reason why they can't. But I don't know. I hope in the spring. I hope we're back in the live show business by March, April timeframe. I don't know, Rob. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Google announced that they're going to keep everybody home until I think it is July of 2021, as far as their staff and employees. So I think the general consensus is like spring to early summer of 2021 before there's a great likelihood that there'll be some sort of a treatment or a vaccine for the virus that can start building confidence again. But I think that this has been such a big hit that it's going to be slow. It's going to be a slow build for people to trust to come out again.
It's just not podcasting conferences. It's HR conferences. It's all these other things we go for, all our other services we offer that are beyond just what a podcaster does. So, we were talking about it yesterday during our marketing meeting. We're like, okay, what are we going to do? Because we have to do something. And so, we're coming up with our own plans. But
Chris, what are you hearing in the trade show industry? What are they shooting for, you think?
Well, all of them have canceled the last of the quarter 2 next year, so they're all shifting. What I heard, same thing you heard from Google, late June, July.
Jesus.
Next year.
Devastating.
Now that's corporate, right? I don't know when they could have it come back, but that's the corporate. That's Chase Bank on down. They're all going June, July of next year, because some of them had scheduled some quarter 2 meetings and they're moving them now as we speak.
Well, and that's also probably a lockdown on employees traveling as well, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's the attendee side that gets hit, with these big corporations as well going to events.
But again, majority of attendees at events are not at big corporations. There is a portion of them there.
It actually hurts your sponsors. That's the bigger corporations are the sponsors, and they don't allow their people to travel
right
to those conferences. That's where you feel it first.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. It's and here's the thing you're up against too. Everyone's doing a virtual conference now. I know of at least 3 or 4 more virtual conferences that are happening. One Podcast Movement's having one, then there's another one of the week before or week after. That's another 5-day one. So there is a huge number of because I'm getting all these proposals for virtual events, and I talked to the event. You've got a handle on it. I talked to a lot of virtual event organizers, and they have nary a clue.
Yeah, so we did 3 things to differentiate this. 1, we did a crowdfunding, so to get the buy-in of the community, we had 392% of goal. 2, we got backing of the sponsors like Libsyn and different people that really want to get behind it. StreamYard is coming online as well. A lot of different sponsors, and then we invested heavily in Huva and a lot of different tech tools, and then we have a team that helps with this. So I know a lot of people will duct tape something together, but we even created a community of people for this event. They're excited to literally interact and then connect with newbies. So we have a plan of attack, and we're going to unleash it, and I believe we will be successful. My goal is to bring the culture that we all feel at PodFest virtually. Now, I will be the first to tell you, virtual cannot really go as close to physical. As you said, there's hallway a lot of things that happen at a physical event that you can't account for. But we're going to do our best to get as close as we can.
Yeah, it's those hallway conversations. There's
a lot. Like you said,
it's the drinking the beer at the
to your fellow trade show exhibitors.
Right.
Like you're not gonna, you can't. How are you gonna do that at the? You know, and I know people have these VR type things, but they're just not there yet. That could take a very long time to have the full thing. So there's a lot of little nuances. You know, you can't go out, have a drink, that happens at a thing. So I'm excited to get back to live events when it does happen. I'm hoping, like you guys, it happens sooner than what everybody's planning. It comes back, but now we're all in a wait and see pattern for that. Definitely not happening this year. I think we could all agree on that.
And it really boils down to one thing. It's attention. When we're there, we don't, we're checking our email late in the evening, check it early in the morning. The rest of the time, we're interacting, we're having conversations, we're waving the flag, we're, doing the things we need to do to. It happens at trade shows, and that is the piece that that really makes trade shows really as valuable as they are, or even events, not necessarily trade shows, but in-person events. So
right,
it's not. And now they're talking about not letting kids go back to school in some states. So, oh my God, talk about even lower attention span, because you got kids that are going to be homeschooling, maybe traditional school or actual. Real homeschool is in the in the original word, and then you got moms and dads that are we've got that situation at our office where we've got two one of our team members, his wife and him both are in the same office, and they're in a Zoom call and we're in a Zoom call, and you can hear the crosstalk. It's crazy. So that's going on. So lots of distractions, and then people are just getting burned. They're burned of being at home and not having social interaction. So maybe that's the thing, Chris, is that you can get that social interaction going, give people a chance to talk to somebody.
We're hoping to accomplish that. And like I said, I think Hoova is the best tool that we've ever found that. So we're confident, and we'll start it tomorrow. I mean, we'll launch tonight. Tomorrow we'll see how people interact.
How many people are you doing? You've got at least 3 people that are running in 3 different locations running the Zoom meetings, right? Or are you doing?
That's only on Fridays. They're staggered. So think about it like a step.
Oh, okay.
Some overlap maybe by an hour. So we're trying not to do 3 at once at any one time. So it'll be like, hey, this will productivity con here, and then so
there'll be an accordion.
Yeah, exactly. Then people could choose what they want.
And they won't. You won't pass out.
Yeah, otherwise, probably on Friday.
Yeah. So another twist on the future of real world events too. I was talking to an event that's getting organized in London in 2021. They're shooting for like 6,000 real world attendees and all this stuff around the podcasting space in Europe. And one of the slides that they sent me was basically a presentation on how they were going to manage the networking around social distancing, masks, how the interactions are going to happen at these real world events, even when we do start going back to real world events. Chris, have you thought about that aspect of it too? Is it going to put a crimp on the whole reason why we do real world events, is that these social distancing and those kind of things are going to get in the way of it?
I think I've seen this done at I think in Seattle, the event that you were at, Rob, a little while back. We'll have rooms where people want to be left alone, like quiet rooms or whatever, and I get it gets too intense to get away. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're in a conference, you're looking to meet people and get to know them. If you need distancing, we'll have rooms where you can distance yourself and take yourself out of that situation. But to tell someone, for someone else not to put their hand out, shake their hand, it gets kind of difficult. But I think we'll see how it shapes up, but I'm hoping that we won't have to get to that level. But we'll see.
As soon as there's a vaccine or a more robust pharmaceutical solution, I'm burning every mask I've got.
Todd, you never know when you might need it again.
We'll have.
And the sooner I can get away from wearing a mask, I wear a mask. But the sooner I can viably not wear a mask, I'm burning every one of them. But
sometimes I forget I'm wearing a mask, trying like something or
I don't
take a drink.
I don't forget. If you wear glasses, you don't forget.
Oh, it fogs up. No,
yeah, because they're stifling.
It happens to me all the time. In Florida, you can't see. It goes right in.
Right. Someone's going to come up with an invention for that, where there'll be something stupid that's going to keep our glasses from fogging up. So that's one thing for sure. And of course, branded masks. Everyone's going to be. There'll be the Libsyn mask. There'll be the Podbean mask. There'll be the Blueberry mask with something stupid on them. So
that'll be the giveaway at the booth. Huh?
Well, I'm sure. Right. I'm sure that's going to. That's you already see the vendors. We're already getting hit up for, branded stuff. So,
Chris, you're really plugged into the podcast community and what's going on in it right now. Is there anything that's going on that's surprising you right now that has, it's something that you've come across that's kind of unusual compared to what you've seen in the past?
Nothing that we don't know, but we're going to see a lot more of live video and the integration of the two. And you see that with Spotify they're already doing video ads on Spotify. So there's a lot of integration moving forward, and just keep an eye on it, really. Most people who say podcast, they don't know if you mean a YouTube channel or an audio show. So there's just a lot of convergence of the mediums. So I'm just paying attention to that. And a lot more niche creators that are still waiting to come online. So there's really, audio drama is probably one of my favorite examples, but people don't even know it exists. That these people are creating serialized, scripted, fictional realities. And some of them have millions of downloads. It's just amazing that was Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, and now it has this new renaissance with the creativity that these people are bringing to it. So I'm really excited about that side of it.
It's interesting you say Spotify. I pulled some data recently, and we're actually seeing a drop in Spotify.
In Spotify downloads?
Yeah, and Spotify user share, yeah. And it all kind of happened around the Joe Rogan announcement. We started to see a drop off. So I don't know if some people...
I'm sure people didn't like that.
So I don't know if it, but the problem is Joe Rogan's not over there permanently yet.
Right.
So why was there a dip? I don't know. So time will tell.
Yeah.
They're making moves, I'll tell you that. They got all kinds of reps calling people up. So I have been seeing people ask me, what's this or what's that? Like they're literally got their reps out there. So they're playing it very aggressively. And my assumption is they couldn't make a lot of money in music. And they're figuring, hey, podcast free, we can monetize the crap out of it.
Well, Rob and I talked about this at length. If someone listens to 90 minutes of this show on Spotify, which they don't, but if they did, it would offset 90 minutes of music revenue. And if they so chose, they could monetize on top of it against us. And then it's a double bonus. It's like they get 180 minutes worth of free,
correct.
And offsets 180 minutes of music. But here's a topic for you, Chris. Rob and I, or at least we raised this question, it got some reaction. Is it time that podcasters through and through were paid for our content to be on platforms, so just like music artists?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that because it started as a freemium with the iTunes store. So it'd be tough to go backward.
Well,
whereas music was always paid till Napster kind of
true,
it, right?
and I don't know if we can
they had to go back to getting paid.
I don't know if we can put the genie back in the bottle, but it's all indications is that these big platforms, Pandora's already said they're going to do revenue share, so they've already recognized the value, but they're slow. Their uptake has been pretty slow of total number of shows, where Spotify has everything.
Well, and Spotify does pay you for their anchor ads. Put their own ads. They'll pay you $15 per CPM. So there is some.
Well, their CPMs are not 15.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay.
But if you're on Anchor, and there's only like 4,000 active shows on Anchor, so I don't know. We'll see, but it's just a question, because our content is becoming more valuable. I'm getting calls. Rob's getting calls. We're all getting calls for distribution globally across platforms, and people wanting to integrate and get the content. So they recognize the value of the content, but yet we're giving it all away for free.
Well, it's kind of like blogging with writers, right? They went from paying for newspapers to you getting it for free. And maybe it'll happen like what's happening now. All these newspapers online are putting paywalls up, and you pay $1 or whatever, something small. So depending on the source, if they trust the name, maybe they'll pay a premium. I mean, SiriusXM is paid audio, so it really depends.
Well, Sirius doesn't write me a check, and this show's over at Sirius, so.
Oh, is it? I didn't know it was on Sirius.
Sirius has got a huge inventory. Rob kicked that off when he worked at Spreaker, got all the shows from Spreaker on iHeart, and then it moved to everybody. So I don't know. I don't know if we can put the genie back in the bottle, but it's a conversation that maybe podcasters need to start to have, because what happens when the corporate suits say, okay, we can double up here. Let's place a bounty ad against a mommy podcaster show, and she's advertising Dawn or whatever, competing brand. Then we have a problem. But maybe it's just going to be up to us to monetize our shows, and then they're going to monetize around us. I'm not saying they are.
Be like YouTube, the way they monetize on YouTube type thing, rev share.
Why would they? They don't have to pay us for anything.
Well, I guess eventually, hopefully, they'll compete and pay us something.
Well, it's up to the industry to push back on
that,
Todd, too. I mean, we've seen that happen before. The example was Stitcher. Stitcher tried to do that, and the industry pushed back on it, and Stitcher wound up backing off on it. And unfortunately, it also puts Stitcher in a financial vice too. How do they pay for building their platform? It's a tough question. But I think that the music streaming platforms are in a different situation than Stitcher was. Whether or not this, I think what the Joe Rogan deal shows is that the bigger shows will start to do this, because Joe wasn't on Spotify before he did that deal. So that was one of those deals, and I believe Podcast One was not on Spotify for a long time, because Spotify was caching and rehosting the files, and the whole business model that Podcast One had was around dynamic ad insertion. So, that company wasn't going to put any of their content on any of the platforms that was rehosting content, because it broke their business model. So you kind of have that going on here too, and a lot of these platforms are going to be looking for ad-free versions of the content.
To Spotify's credit, though, they did go to pass-through, so we can change our ads now if we want to. If we want to dynamically change the ad, so we're not.
Right. But that took a lot of convincing.
It did.
That didn't happen overnight.
And at the same time, it put the hosting load. So my hosting bill went up whatever percentage we had based upon that traffic. That I was basically just handing off and wasn't costing me nothing. So. And we don't monetize against, we're just offering a service. So our costs went up. Our tech support went up.
And Spotify's costs went down, right?
Right. So that's another thing. They don't even have to pay for the bandwidth, Chris. We're paying for the bandwidth. So it's 100% free ride. They're laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Those are parts you don't think about. Yeah, that's eye-opening.
So, Chris, are these big companies approaching you, getting involved in your event?
We had talked with Spotify. We talked to Harman, which is JBL, the speakers.
Right.
So they had a whole stage in the back, downstage. We had Audible call us last year. It was just a little too last minute. So they are talking, they are calling, and they're watching. So we went from, I remember 5 or 6 years ago, I went to NAB. hadn't gone in a while, so I went back, and I remember talking to certain people, and I remember one guy was like, "Hey, man, I won't even give you my business card because we're not interested." And then I met the person again, and he's like, "Hey, we're looking at it." And I met him again a year later, and he's like, "Hey, we're interested." So it takes a while for them to wake up. So, but they're definitely coming around. That's
Yeah, because I do know that there's a certain segment of the podcasting space that doesn't even know about your event, Chris. So
I think over time, they'll learn, because we keep doubling. Remember, what we did was we have a culture and community, so kind of like Southwest culture. People bring friends back, so I think that's gonna see that keep steamrolling, especially with this global summit. So many people are finding out about us. It will literally double to triple our database because of all the influx that's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't because you're doing something wrong or anything like that. There's just a segment of the podcasting community that's only paying attention to certain sources of info, and it's typically coming out of the Northeast. They're just not seeing what's going on in the greater podcasting space.
Oh no! If you only read one newsletter and its primarily focuses New York and Boston, you don't know any. You don't know 90% of what that conference had 2,000.
Exactly.
What? Who? Where? When? That was the reaction that we got. Rob got to your show. People had no idea. These big names. They're like, what? Who?
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, at the Rain Summit in New York here this past, I think it was January or March. Right. I told people I was about to come down to Podfest, and they're like, well, Podfest? What's that? And it's like every person I talk to. So there's different bubbles in this medium that people just don't. I don't know what it is. Now, granted, your conference is very indie focused, right? And that community is very big network, big radio. That is the community that they live in. And I guess I've been trying to bring these communities together. Like I tell everybody about your event down there, and they're like, "Oh, I'll go check it out." But yeah, there's still missing connections here in this podcasting space. I guess it's getting so big that there's people coming into the medium that just don't have that bigger context.
Well, like I think Todd hit the nail on the head. They get one feed, and they stay within their radius, and anything outside of that. I mean, listen, I grew up in New York. You live in New York, you don't think any other part of the country exists. There is some conceit that happens.
That's true.
Growing up as a New Yorker, you just think everything happens there, and every other place is just like some place outside of New York.
Right.
So it's just funny how now I don't think that's true in today's day. Seeing huge migrations out of a lot of places, but I could understand that. The cool thing about us, we're a word of mouth conference, and we'll keep growing. Where we see ginormous growth, and we're hitting a lot of growth out of the country, which we're really excited about. Seeing a lot of people from other parts of the globe coming in. They were flying in for this past conference, and we're going to see more of that coming up. So we're in a good position, and I'm just going to keep supporting the people that have supported us. I don't know if a lot of people realize why that's important, but in my mind, if you support the people that supported you, they keep supporting you, and that is marketing that you just cannot pay for. That's from the heart. People care about you. That's why you keep seeing us growing. We haven't forgotten where we came from.
So, what have you? Rob's got his Podcast Academy hat. So, have you guys? What's your ear to the ground on people's thoughts on the Podcast Academy?
Well, at first people didn't know what it was, so there was some confusion. What's going on with it. Mm-hmm. And then I think when they saw that Rob Greenlee was part of it, there was some calming effect, and then people were like, "Hey, I think we should be part of it." I was asked by a couple people once I found out that Rob was part of it. I said to them, check it out. But I did also mention that there's other awards that have been around for quite some time, and check those out as well. And, right now, people are excited about it, and there's a good buzz about it.
That's good. I think that we need to see more numbers. How's your guys' numbers over there, Rob? Is it doing okay, or is it a little slow?
Well, I mean, I would I mean, this is a big, big medium. We'd love to see a lot more members come in the door, and we're kind of getting to a point now where we need to start some marketing initiatives, and we're going to partner, with some events like the Podcast Academy is going to do a microcon with Chris. So that's something that we've been working on the last 24 hours, trying to get pulled together. So we can get some terrific speakers over there and get its own track going as part of his event, and that's just kind of the beginning of how this organization is going to work with the community and hopefully be accessible and be a resource going forward too. Now, granted, we're all into the education stuff, right? So we all are a little bit competing with each other too. So I do think that the organization needs to take on a little bit more leadership into some other areas of the medium too. But to get started with, I mean, it's just pulling together what the awards is going to be, which is really the focus of the organization right now, is just getting a good handle on what that's going to be, because that's going to kick off here soon. So it's that whole process. And Todd, you know what it's like to do this, and it's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, our nomination period ends on Friday. So
right.
Friday at midnight, our nomination period's over. Then I got to get the accounting firm to work, and then we'll have a slate sometime next week I have to announce, and then the voting starts again. So, we're on a timeline. We International Podcast Day is September 30th, and we have a award show that night. So, it's just things have to meet their
deadlines.
Their deadlines, or we won't be ready. We won't have winners yet.
Todd, how many years have you been doing that?
This is 15. And
wow.
Actually, I took a year off when someone else had it. So I did count their year. I think I did. So 15, yeah. And this will be...
you the original?
Yeah, was original and first. Yep. So in this year, it looks like we may squeak out a couple $1,000. I don't want to call it profit, because we take the money and we just put it right back in the site, because there is no time, and my time isn't accounted for, and I have to pay the tech team, but the server cost. But we'll turn that, whatever that excess is, we'll turn that right back into development of the software. I don't want to get behind the 8 ball again, because we had to raise like $20,000 to fix it the last time, and I'm not going to do that again. So, but getting good. We could get a lot more participation. There could be, there's no reason. I think we've got, I don't know what the number is. I haven't officially given the number, but there could be several thousand. Matter of fact, I wish there was several thousand more participants, but we usually have 700 or 800 shows that participate.
Chris, since your event starts fairly soon here, let's talk about how people can get involved in it, what the costs are, what the various levels are of participation.
Yeah, so very simple. You go to podfestexpo.com. We have free passes. So grab the free passes. They include the free week, which is starting this Monday, August the 3rd to the 8th. And then the record-setting week is August 10th to the 15th. And we'll be doing that. So we do have a paid pass, which is the next level up, is $89. And that includes access to our master class on Friday. Then we have a VIP pass, a couple $100. That includes all the videos of the master classes. And then the Inner Circle ticket is kind of a networking pass for Saturday with all the speakers, and it creates some special content. But mainly, I would tell people, go grab a free pass. If you want the video pass, I would recommend that. But come in and have fun with us. We're excited. Once we set the Guinness World Record, everybody will be able to register to get a certificate that they were part of a Guinness World Record. So we're really excited about it.
So how does the microcons work? What's the timing on those?
So the microcons, during pre-week, each day we have a certain topic, and we try and start them all around 1:00 p.m. Eastern. We're trying to be sensitive to, European time standards, and then Pacific, and then some. And then we usually finish around 9 p.m. So there's different microcons around different days. Once we release Whova tonight, if you register for free ticket, you'll get in the app. You could see the entire schedule. So we'll have that public by tomorrow morning. And then let's just say on August 10th, when we launch A to Z, Startup A to Z, that starts from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. The next day is Tech Tuesday, again, from 1 p.m. Eastern to 8 or 9 p.m. So that's kind of how it all works. And microcons are 3-hour chunks here and there, depending on the microcon, 2 to 3 hours.
So it's
are those on a different date schedule, Chris? The microcons?
We have microcons from August 3rd to the 8th.
Right.
And then we have a few between the 10th and 15th that were registered early on.
So where's the schedule for August 3rd to the 8th? Because I'm looking on the website and I only see the 10th through the 15th.
Yeah, we're going to email everybody that. And then basically on social, we have it integrated. I'm going to have my graphic guy throw that up there tomorrow morning.
All right.
So August 3rd to the 8th, those will be very well attended because they're all solo track. On the main week, there will be some things going up against each other.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense, Rob?
It's a big event. I mean, you're pulling together lots and lots of pieces of this. It's probably the most extensive virtual event that I've ever seen.
And we've met with all our speakers.
Yeah, I mean,
which is incredible.
yeah.
Like we've gone through everything. I've been doing 23 to 25 one-to-ones a day, 10-minute blocks to talk to the presenters, make sure because the last thing we need is someone putting a pitch in there. So we're really big on making sure that it's content rich for our audience because it's our brand. And unfortunately for that person, and I know you guys know this, our community site is so tight knit. If some guy or a gal tries to do a sales pitch, it's going to hurt their reputation more than ours because everybody knows how much work we put into it. So I'm actually protecting them if they're trying to do something underhanded because everybody knows it doesn't come from us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when people do pitch, it's like they get socially blasted too. So maybe they have no idea, but that's what happens in a lot of cases as well. So it immediately gets out there, and you can't take any of that commentary back.
Yeah, and the other extreme is saying no pitch. I'm good with an ending slide saying, here's who I am,
Right.
Here's my contact, here's a lead gen if you want a free whatever. I mean, that's above board.
Right.
You've done your work. You should be, but you sit there and you start saying, hey, today and today only, I'm going to teach you whatever, and it's 20,000, but I'm going to discount it to 80%. That's when it's not going to go over well unless people know they're walking into one of those pitch infomercial type.
So I had someone comment to me, you guys already had a conference this year. Why are you having another conference? So what was the reasoning for doing one in August and not waiting to your normal time next year?
Yeah, I could only speak for myself. It's really lonely sitting in the office here looking at the computer all day long and talking to my friends. And I was like, what better way than bring everybody together? And I literally did think, like, maybe we should do it one day. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I need a future to live into, to be quite frank. And I'm not one of those people that could just sit there and wait for something to settle outside my control. So we did a little one day. It went over really well. I called up the Guinness World Records. They got back to me, and one thing led to another. So this organically kind of happened. And I was watching a Disney movie with my daughter called Thing, and it's about a promoter named Mr. Moon, and his theater collapses, and somehow he makes the best of his theater collapsing, and he makes it an open air theater. Only a promoter would do that, and holds this huge conference performance, and it brings the whole city together. So for me, I'm led by bringing my friends and people together and helping others. So it kind of fulfills what I need, and I have a future to live into instead of wondering when live events come back on. So that's really, it's my selfish desire to connect with my friends and help others.
So are you planning on your next live conference to still happen in March, or is that
It's
off?
not going to happen in March, I could tell you that. So we're in negotiations. We'll be releasing a new date, but it will not happen in March. We already know that. So there's going to be some news coming out. I guess this is an exclusive, but we'll be releasing some news in a month or two.
Just don't put them on top of the other ones.
We listen. That's not. I'm very supportive of all the other conferences. I agree with you. I want every conference to be able to breathe. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's thrown a monkey wrench into everybody's plans.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like I was looking forward to going to podcast. and seeing everybody. It's unfortunate that this and she podcasts in October, so it's unfortunate this has happened.
I think they had to make the call. I understand that they had to make the call, and largely was probably, I'm not speaking for them, but I'm guessing it was financial. They probably had to call it at a certain point. But I don't know. It's things are tapering off now, so I would have hoped that by October we would have been good. But again, I'm the optimist that is not afraid to travel.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, but at the same time, unfortunately, I think you guys know this, but people have no idea the guarantees that we have to sign with these hotels and the risk. I know people always like, why are the tickets so expensive? I get you guys are vendors, exhibitors, so you know this better than anyone, but I don't think people understand the guarantees. Like you got to put up 6, sometimes 7-figure guarantees to make these conferences happen, and the hotel doesn't care if you're not pulling it off. They want their money, and there's clauses in there that if you don't hit certain metric, there's penalties, and those penalties could be ginormous. So I'm grateful to have been able to survive that and learn through the curve, but it's just not easy, and that's why you don't see too many people full time running a live event promotion. Very difficult.
And I think too, what we're going to probably start seeing is people never ever in the past did insurance for events, and I'm sure there's going to be now opportunities to buy insurance at extremely high premiums to protect an event in case because it's going to be you're probably going to spend as much on insurance as your down payment to start to reserve a place.
Yeah, so I'm very well versed in this because of this is my side of the business. One of the only events that had insurance was Wimbledon, and every year they would pay their insurance premium for live event insurance, which, believe it or not, most events do not pay those. They get liability. They don't get where, hey, if it all gets canceled, I want to get paid out no matter what. And I think it was Lloyd's of London. They had to pay them out close to $1 billion.
Wow.
Which wiped out all the premiums they had collected from for that line of insurance. And if anyone's not familiar, this happens with they're all reassessing if they want to provide live event insurance. We'll see what happens.
So do you have a relationship with the hotel right now for looking to the future, or did that kind of get closed up?
No, we have a relationship and we're all in talks, and literally we'll be announcing something shortly.
Okay.
So everything's good. We'll have an event. We're actually expecting our event to I'm overly optimistic, but I have a feeling we'll be close to 4,000 people next year, but we'll see where it goes. Definitely, I could guarantee you we'll be at 3,000, but we might have a shot at 4.
I think really, I like your enthusiasm. Right. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of contingencies, and contingency is, and I know some people aren't going to do. I still know there's a lot of controversy. Some people don't want to do the vaccine, but I'll be the first in line.
Oh, yeah.
To get a vaccine because I want to get moving again.
Well, and if they open up other countries, so I get that. I'm going, like I said, I am on the optimistic side, but what countries are allowed to travel in and all that, who knows how that's going to play out. So that will impact.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate keeping the event in Florida?
Yeah, it'll be in Orlando.
Oh, okay.
Greg says, yeah, but who would have attended in October? Doug says, Doug, I'd have been there. I may have been alone.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. Yeah, that'd probably be. You never
Todd
know.
would be the event,
a crowd,
right?
But nothing compared to facilitate the hotel room.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not scared.
There's conferences going on now. I don't know how big. There maybe 100 to 150 people showing up in certain states.
Oh, is there any states allowing that? I hadn't heard that. Maybe like
Texas. I think.
I think Texas cranked it back down, but maybe like South Dakota or someplace like that, maybe.
Well,
so you're thinking Gary smaller, kind of like business conferences, or are you talking about like team meetings, or what are you talking about? You think?
Well, I got to reach out to Gary Leland. I know he's got Fifth Block Boom coming up, so I got to see what's going on there.
Yeah.
In late August.
Interesting.
Well, it's hey, what's amazing? All the places that I travel to normally, they're sending me great deals on hotel rates.
Well, listen, Florida is packed. Anything on the beaches, the hotels are packed. I don't know if you'd want to go to them, but basically everybody's driving in the
camping
southeast
camping
and coming to
sites.
Florida.
Camping sites in Michigan are largely booked full.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. So outdoors, I mean, everybody's everywhere at this point.
So that's the key. Maybe where we have the conferences at the in Hawaii at do it at the bowl, where you basically, it's the big, what do they call that? Oh my God. It's like the Hollywood Bowl, but it's a version of that in Honolulu. Oh crap. I'll lose my Hawaii cred here. But anyway, they got, one of those big amphitheaters. It's open and you sit it's all outside. It's a great place for a conference during COVID. But of course, you have to quarantine for 14 days when you arrive in Hawaii if you're a visitor. And if you are out of quarantine, they arrest you. So,
wow.
Yeah, great for tourism. Great look.
Hey, Todd, did you see the article in Pod News about the top 100 most chosen podcast names? Did you see that list?
I did not look at the list. So did you get some comedy out of it? I bet you there's
on fire.
I'm sure there's a few on fires.
The number one is No Title.
What? Are you serious?
Is it called No Title, or it has?
Yeah, it's just that's the name of the podcast. That's the title of the podcast, No Title.
There's a lot of those.
Well, it's kind of like passwords, right? The most popular password is password.
All right,
right?
I have to go look. We have a directory of all of the. Let me go.
Then the number 2 one is sermons.
Oh, I'm not surprised about that.
Yeah, that does.
And then number 3 is sermon audio. And then number 4 is webtalkradio.net. Just like
Web Talk Radio.
I actually own that domain. I mean, not that particular domain name, but I own webtalkradio.com.
So here's my search for No Title. And I don't agree. I have every pod. Where did they get this list?
I don't know.
It's actually called No Title.
From Paracast?
Yeah, okay, whatever. No Title is the most popular title. This is page 1 result. 1, 2, there's some that says title.
Yeah.
Let me go to page 2.
Be sure to put a name to your podcast.
Okay.
There's 234 of them that have the name podcast.
So sermon was another one, Rob?
Yeah, sermon, and then sermon audio, and then the term podcast, and the term like trailer and intro.
Oh, interesting.
COVID-19, real talk, let's talk, that kind of stuff.
Oh, those must be terms that's in the actual name of the show.
No, it's the first real title is what they're calling it.
Real talk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a lot of like real talk podcast, real talk no chaser,
right?
Real talk demons in my mind, and that kind of stuff. Real talk 100, real talk let's talk, real estate real talk. So that I understand, but there's not that many just real talks. There's 5 or 6 that are just real talk, at least in our directory. But there is quite a few. I'm looking here. There is quite a few more that are real talk. If I go further in, oh yeah, a lot. Holy cow, yeah. So it thinks like someone would have, here's a whole list of just real talk.
Wow. That's the title, huh?
Yeah, that's the title. Yep.
Hopefully none of them hired a strategist to help.
Well,
it's a strategist that gives each client the same name.
It's the strength in numbers strategy.
So
right?
whoever was first and has the semi-quasi trademark on that could have a field day.
Right. Yeah.
So I would imagine.
You guys recommend trademark?
It's hard to, because you can, but
I mean, you can try.
But it's not easy, especially if it's because so many terms are taken. You can't trademark banana. you know, so stuff like that. So
depending on the name, right?
Right. And some stuff has gotten trademarked, you know, that are associations, like the Blueberry Association with the real blueberry, you know, so.
With the proper spelling, is that what you're saying?
With the proper spelling, yeah.
What are you guys seeing with artificial intelligence coming out with that, with AI? Are people, because I know people listen to news and maybe weather updates, but are they listening to podcasts with their AI devices?
Well, I think you've got, you know, we've seen in the past where people have taken, and this really isn't AI, they've taken a written news story and created a podcast from it.
Right.
I don't know if there's any AI work being, nothing that I've heard.
Well, I think where it's being done is around transcriptions.
Yeah.
And trying to find context. And I think there is, you know, Apple's working on a new augmented reality, like goggles, glasses kind of concept. I don't know how that's going to necessarily change podcast listening. It's probably not a whole lot different than what we've seen with the Apple Watch. It's just an extension of the iPhone or whatever. But it's going to be more visual, right? So you'll see the world around all your stuff, like on your iPhone. So people will hold their phones less, is what it means. I'm not sure what that has to do with it, but I think that the smart speaker platforms, you know, from Google and Amazon, I think they're in a position to benefit from AI probably more than just about anybody else. You know, to try and get context in the audio side of things. Yeah.
Let's see here. We got an email. I'm looking to see if I can read any of this without giving it away. Who sent it to me?
Was it a question or a comment about?
Yeah, it was a comment about the show.
Past show.
The person said, "Lots of great insight as always." Can't read that. Oh, tough to keep up these days on basically who's acquired who. And definitely can't say that because that was specifically said off the record. Boy, you don't make it easy for me here. And I don't have the email up on the screen this time revealing stuff from a listener. Let's see here.
Now, CES did say in their announcement that they will be back with a real world event in 2022 is what they said.
Well, we'll see.
So they're putting the stake in the ground.
They've got to. They've just did the Las Vegas Convention Center did Las Vegas North, that new structure that they built that we were going to move into this year it's probably, well, they're not in such a rush, but that was built specifically for CES. So they have to come back.
Well, you imagine what the hit was on Las Vegas.
Oh, it's 10 days. It's millions and millions of dollars. I look at what, at what my little team spends. We spend 25 grand. And
Chris, have you ever thought about moving Podfest to, another city or Vegas or somewhere else? Or is it just about building community right there and being a place that people know?
I've thought about it. We'd like to. We're working with the Orange County Convention Bureau. Mm-hmm. So, eventually, we'd like Podfest to become a citywide event. So it would take some time, but we see our microcon development and all these conferences building up into a big conference. So it takes time to build into a city. So if we ever did move something out, like I love Vegas personally, but it would be like a Podfest West. That would be way down the road.
Right.
I mean,
are you thinking like almost like a Dragon Con type concept where it would kind of like take over a city? Is that what you're thinking?
Ideally, yeah, because you got like certain hotels that filter right into the convention center. It would take time, but we think with the growth of everything, we have some good potential there.
I think there's huge opportunity for someone to either work with NAB or probably not CES. That really isn't a match. But NAB, any of the NAB shows would be, because they just draw such huge numbers. 140,000 people. They try to do something at NAB, but the track is very limited and very narrow and hyper focused on broadcasters. But I think there's huge, that's what the goal was of the folks that used to have, what was the show before Podcast Movement?
New Media Expo.
Yeah, New Media Expo. That was their attempt, but it was poorly executed.
They got lost in the noise.
Yeah, they poorly executed exhibitor space, poorly executed where all the sessions were. So, but it was kind of a good fit. It would have been really good if they hadn't went broke.
Yeah, I think it was a poor execution around the brand strategy for the event as well. It just was sloppily put together. I think that's what really killed it in the end.
They had a huge opportunity there, but
absolutely. And then I had seen Rob at PodCon with Seattle, and those guys had over 1,000 people at their first event, but I guess it wasn't enough for what they were expecting. But I mean, I think that's pretty respectable. So I don't know what happened with them, but they were YouTubers trying to get into the podcast space.
Well, Rob went to both the first and the second one. I only went to the first one. I sent a team.
Same here. I only went first one too.
And I think we sent Mackenzie to the second one. I can't remember.
Yeah, you did. Yep.
But, be honest with you, there's a huge community that is not served. Huge. And I mean, huge. It's a community that is kind of been left on their own.
It's young people is what it is.
Right. Yep.
It was also a heavy female, which you don't go off like. Well, I think it was over 60% female audience.
But I go back to a story. I've told it several times, and when I got there, the first event, and they had this board. It was a blank board, and they basically had create your own podcast billboard or something like that. And they wanted people to create artwork and a billboard ad for, and they had on the side, they had scrapbooks and tear paper and all that stuff. And I just chuckled. I said, who's going to do that? Second day I walked by, the board was full. It was full. And there are people being super creative and doing stuff. And I'm like, and that just instantly made me realize that, boy, you were stupid, for laughing at that. And not only that, it was a real indication that truly hardcore creatives and con type, like a Dragon Con type creative, but not just a costume, but write stories and all this super creative stuff. I don't do, Robin, I go over news, and Rob and I in this show, we just talk. We're not creative. We're just, we talk our opinion. If I was to try to do some short story, I'd be lost. But this is a community that is way underserved. Well, they had it. I don't know what happened. They were expecting a lot more people. I don't know. I think it was numbers, but still, if they were disappointed in 1,000, you would be thrilled to have 1,000 of those creators come to your show.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they came off of success from the video side where they were getting, 30, 40,000, and they were expecting that to happen overnight. I don't think they were. I didn't get that impression. Did you, Rob? I think it was more about they were fans of some of the shows that were there.
Right.
And yet, at the same time, the many of those creators were thinking about doing a podcast. Not a lot of them I talked to were YouTubers. So I don't think there was a lot of rollover from VidCon to PodCon.
Well, maybe some. The shows that gathered the big audiences were shows that had some sort of connection to, like an animated series or a short or a or a TV series or something like. I mean, there was some sessions that kind of borderline were podcast related at that event. So it was trying to walking a fine line with the YouTube creators, and I think that's what the goal that the organizers had with that was to try and tap into that market. and kind of do some crossover. I think they were seeing a lot of YouTubers going over and doing podcasts, and I think that they saw an opportunity there to build a different type of an audience for an event. And I think, like Chris, you saw when you were there, I think it was actually more than 1,000 people. I think they had a couple thousand people there.
And the number
the first year,
it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
So, maybe there's an opportunity there for you, Chris. But again, they are definitely, they have their own track focus too. They're not going to care about monetization. They're not, it's all about storytelling and
exactly.
maybe a little bit about underwriting, underwriting versus sponsorship.
Yeah. And I think that their expectations were a lot higher too, based on their founding of VidCon, which tends to be, I think that's like a 10,000 attendee event.
Oh, it's much larger than that.
It is bigger than that now?
Oh, yeah.
And it's expensive to go to too.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm starting to see more come in the door that we've never seen, we're not a content house. We're a service company. And I've been getting weekly now 4 or 5 pitches for shows, and people looking for us to underwrite or support or sponsor. Right. And I email people back and I point them at the different directions to go. But there's a lot of podcasters out there now that are looking for pitch and shows and ideas, or they've built, maybe did a 10-show series, and now they're looking for additional funding to do the next. I think for those in the content business, I'm sure they're just getting bombarded, but because I've never gotten pitches before, now I'm getting pitches all the time. You see the same thing, Rob?
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a lot of new people that have an interest in the podcasting medium now that are thinking that our platforms, Todd, like Libsyn or Blueberry or I'm sure Podbean and all of them, are somehow we own all the content on our platforms.
Yeah.
And we have control over that. And we can I'm getting like guest pitches for various shows that are on our platform. And you can imagine that can get a little out of control when you're talking about 70,000 shows. Where publicists are pitching guests to be on shows, and they're sending me an email about a show that I don't even know about, right?
Yep.
So it's that's been going on for about 6 months now. So there's just a lot of new people that are getting exposed to this medium. And Chris, I think you're really onto something too, from the standpoint of it. I think there's so much interest in this medium now that spans such a wide spectrum that I think it is going to be possible for you to get, 3,000 people or 4,000 people to start going to these events, just because of the awareness and the growth of it. I mean, look what's happened with the content side of this meeting just in the last 4 months.
But I will preface,
basically double the catalog, right?
Yeah, but I will preface that with it's rife, chock full of death.
Yeah.
Dead shows. Shows that. So I think the line from a number of percentage of shows joining the space is going to be like this spike for the last 4 months. But I think in the end, it's all going to level out.
Well, Todd, that's what's great about this space is that it's always leveled out, hasn't it? I mean,
it's true. It has leveled out. Right. It looks fantastic on paper that we're getting, this number of new shows, but it's so maybe, Chris, what you can do is part of your messaging is like, hey, a lot of you jump in this space, but understand this is not a sprint. This is, the chug.
If you want to build an audience, you have to get serious about the content that you produce too. I mean, it's not an easy game, and it's not getting easier. The more people get into it, and the bigger companies get into this medium, it's a lot more competitive, and but it's also still a blank canvas of an opportunity too. I hear people talk about the diversity of this medium and how we need more voices from other parts of our culture and our society in podcasting. And my comment to them is that there's nothing stopping you.
That's right.
There's no gatekeepers. Come in and create a show. So, complaining that there's not enough voices in there, we just need to encourage people to do it because there's nothing stopping them from doing it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And especially in this time, and I'm sure you guys have addressed it in your lineup, is we continue to see huge suppression in mainstream media of many voices, many voices.
Yeah.
They have a narrative that they want to cover, and that if you get outside that narrative, it isn't talked about. And there's a huge narrative on both right, both left, culturally, everything, And podcasting gives people the ability to not be that, even though the mainstream media isn't talking about it, podcasting allows that to happen. And we need to continue to embrace that and say, yes, we're glad you're here. And yes, we want your content to be produced. And yes, we want you to reach these audiences.
Yeah. And Chris, the focus on, like you're trying to do, expand this on a global scale, bring in other languages, other cultures, other types of things, I think is exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, we see it growing on all fronts, and I try and just make sure everybody's respectful of all the different viewpoints, because not everybody thinks the same. And
True.
You guys know this. You go to a podcasting conference, if you want to see diverse opinion, that's where you go, because it's one of those conferences where you get a spectrum of people that forget about. I know people think of like political, but I'm talking about just from like someone's talking about, I don't know, some esoteric thing you never thought of, to another person's talking about making wreaths. Like we have someone that makes wreaths. We have another guy that applied that talks about water. Like that's the whole thing.
Right.
You just never know who you're walking into, and to that person, what they're talking about is the most important thing out there. So we're excited about giving them a platform. And I hear every year when we have a lot of the new people show up, they're like, whoa, I didn't realize this was all involved in the podcast, because they go into one of the breakouts and they're like, there's a lot of information here. It's like, yeah, this is the people that take it seriously really study up, and they have to figure out how to grow their audience. If they want to monetize or what they're going to do, there's a lot of work. And that's what I love about the medium. You got to study and be part of it.
And it's kind of funny too, is like there's this whole, as I've been going through our catalog and looking at stuff and looking at categories, you would not believe how many cannabis shows there are. It's just like,
well, that's because the YouTube one. I don't know if people know this, but cannabis podcast is one of the 3 places for cannabis. And I was going to mention that podcasts are the only places that allow them to talk openly. A lot of other places censor them. That's why they flock to the podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of like on YouTube,
demonetization.
Right, they're demonetized. Number one, the content may be there, but they talk around topics.
Yeah, because they know they'll get the Google slap on the monetization, and they have to be careful.
Yeah.
Whereas podcasts, they can say whatever they want. So they love podcasts.
Well, that say whatever you want has gotten a few people in trouble and fired from TV. So, it's you have free speech in podcasting, but you better be careful about what you say, because words can hurt you.
Well, Warren Sapp, the football player, he got thrown off, whatever. He was like, because he says whatever comes to his mind. And I just saw recently Tom Segura is going to pick him up and do a football podcast. He's like, great, I could say whatever he wants on our podcast, and he's a great media asset for that guy's podcast network. So he's going to pick up Warren Sapp and made the deal with him over a phone call on his podcast. Warren's like, well, it's like, you don't have to be careful, Warren. Come on my podcast, we got you. And they got comedic license, but on traditional TV, Warren Sapp can't survive.
Yeah, it's interesting. So podcasting is becoming a refuge for people that have strong opinions.
Well, it's also a safe medium too.
That's true.
I mean,
it's true.
It doesn't have the trolls, right, that social media has had, and unfortunately, podcasting for a long time was in the shadows behind social media, and now it's like we're the bastion of safety now, and it's definitely much more open and a bastion of free speech more and more. So, yeah.
Well,
anyway, Todd,
anything
you want to wrap it up?
Where are we at on time? Oh,
I think
my God, we are. Holy crap. We did 90 minutes already. Let's see here. Just making sure I'm looking at the chat. Was there any questions? I don't think just people making random comments. Mike, Doug, everyone was on today. Thanks for your commentary. Let me double check YouTube, make sure there wasn't anything over there.
Well, people we were on at a different time than we normally do too.
Yeah,
so.
I got. Here's what's going on. We're going to Scrum next week. at Blueberry. So we are in full transition mode. It's we're at the phase now where all the pieces are coming together. So we're going from waterfall to Scrum, and woohoo!
It's always fun.
No, it's not. But it is going to be great from our team's perspective for focus. But boy, oh boy, what a transition!
Well, there's probably a lot of people, Todd, that don't know what you just said. So they got real literal with it.
It's so if you just Google waterfall development and then Google Scrum development, and you'll get more than you even want to know. Scrum masters, product owners, it's fun, but
it's all the development flow process.
But it can be marketing too. Marketing can be under Scrum as well.
Yeah, right.
So or I'll throw another term out there, Kanban. So that's
there you go. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I never thought I would be like having to study something that was related to a word called Kanban, but yeah.
Right.
Fun. Okay.
Well, Chris, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you both for having me. We're going live hopefully tonight, tomorrow morning, and then we'll get everything situated. So I appreciate you, have me on your guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. We'll see you throughout the process.
Guys.
Take care.
Okay.
Will do.
Bye.
All right. And for Rob and I'm Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter as well, at Rob Greenlee with 2 E's. And if you want to send me an email, you're certainly welcome to do that. robg@libsyn.com. And I would love to hear from you. So, and oftentimes I do hear from listeners, and it's always great to hear from them.
And we do thank for those of you that send us the semi-confidential emails that I can only read like 3 words off of it.
Please don't say that off the record.
Well, yeah, understandably, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
Especially if you have off the record stuff. Matter of fact, we said something recently in a show. One of the Apple reps reached out to me, and I got him in contact of a person that had a problem, and they got all squared away. So people in important places do listen to the show and have commentary. And we'd love to have you on the show. If you'd love to come on the show as a guest, that would be great. You can express your opinion and be on the record. Rob,
that's what the whole idea of our Wednesday show was, is to get our listeners on the show. If you're brave enough to join us in the window here,
join the gauntlet. We'll be happy with you. So, Rob, you're trying to get Dan Franks on next, right? Or in a couple of weeks?
Dan is going to come on August 12th.
August 12th.
We're going to do this show as part of Podfest.
Okay.
The Global Summit next week I believe it's the 5th, on Wednesday. It's our normal day. We start half an hour early next week, so it'll be at 2:30 instead of 3.
So do we get
that's Eastern?
2:30 Eastern. Do we get 90 minutes, or what do we get?
90 minutes. Yep.
Oh, who are we going to have? You sent me a text. Who should we have on?
It's a very good question. I'm going to pull that together over hopefully the next 24 hours.
Interesting. Because we can't we're limited
put your thinking
here.
Cap on that, Todd.
And being that he's using Zoom, we won't be using this. So,
right.
Huh. Who do you think we should have on the summit? Who do you guys think should be on?
I'd be happy to invite anybody that you guys want.
Yeah, let us know.
To join us. I mean, I have some ideas, but and I'm sure, Todd, you do too. But we'd love to hear from you who you think we should have on. If you have some ideas, send them to me, robg@libsyn.com. I'd love to hear your ideas.
All right, awesome. We're going to get out of here. It's late dinner time. I'm actually just got a text. Food is ready. My mom sent that to me, so I'm going to be late for dinner. I'm getting scrapped. So,
okay.
Everyone, see you later. Take care. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.